Fear is such an uncomfortable emotion. And my intention here in this bonus episode, in light of what's going on in the world right now, is to give you ways to cope better, to take the edge off how you're feeling right now. So, this episode is for you if you can't get the situation out of your mind, if you're feeling uneasy and on edge constantly, if it means that you just can't relax, and that you feel like your stomach churns, or you feel sick, or you have other physical symptoms which you know are related to the war, to how you're feeling about the situation in Ukraine. And this means that you are very possibly stuck in fight or flight mode. And that means that your body is not in a relaxed state. You might find that you're checking the news constantly and a bit obsessively. You might find that your first thought when you wake up in the morning is what's happened overnight, and just that you just can't relax. And this episode has come about. I kind of had an idea that it's probably needed, but I didn't realise as much how needed it was until I had a session with a client the other day, and we worked on this, and did some hypnotherapy techniques and tapping and some other different things. But essentially I thought, this is really, really needed. And then I checked on stories on my Instagram, and it is really needed. So I hope my intention here is to really help give you some tips and some different ways of thinking, which I feel like some of these things might seem quite obvious. But the nature of this episode is such that you might well have been stuck in fight or flight now for the past week or more since the news broke of Russia invading Ukraine. And so I'm going to share what I feel guided to share, even if it seems a little bit obvious. But I know that when you're operating in your primitive brain and you're stuck in fight or flight mode, you can't see what's obvious. You lose the ability to think clearly or rationally. And so I hope this episode speaks to you and helps you if you're needing to hear if you're needing to hear what I'm about to share. But before I do share the tips, I would just like to share a story about me personally and my experience with how you might be feeling now as you're listening to this. So when September 11th happened, I was about 14 years old. I saw what happened on the news. Actually, I was either my brother or me, I can't remember. I was going for an orthodontist appointment, and we walked past Argos, and it was, when TVs were on sale and all the TVs were on in the window. So we saw like 5 or 6 different images or, footage of exactly the same thing happening. What a way to magnify like such atrocious footage. And obviously it's very scary in itself, but then in the following days my chemistry teacher made things so much worse by scaring the absolute shit out of me and possibly my classmates by referring to what could happen, basically verbalizing the worst case scenarios to a class of 14-year-old children, which is completely and utterly irresponsible. But anyway, I'm not going to go into that. But in my training to become a hypnotherapist, I learned about trauma, and I realized that 9/11 had utterly traumatized me. And so I'll come back a bit later to talking about children and the things that we can do if you do have children or work with children, or, that might help you in this episode. So I'll leave that to the end, and I'll come back to that later. But here are some things that might help you, and also things that I've been doing to keep the peace. And I'm actually really pleased with how I've coped in the past week or so. I used to, as an adult, get really, really scared when the situation in Korea, North Korea, those sort of sensationalist headlines would rear their head virtually every year. And that used to get me quite scared, blatantly put me in fight or flight mode. And it was at the point where, like, I wouldn't let people around me talk about it because I would just feel sick to my stomach straight away and just get really, really scared. And so I do personally know how it feels to be really, really worried, but I'm not at the moment. And it's because of the things that I've put in place, the ways that I'm protecting my own energy and my own body. And so hopefully some of the tips I'm about to share will help you too. So first thing to say then is that news is sensational and fear-mongering. And this is because negativity sells. Yeah, our brains are primed for negativity. Our brains are built for survival only. And so we care more about the negative than the positive. And so if we're thinking of the news, then of course it makes sense that the negative stuff is going to sell. And the more sensationalist it is, the more people are going to want to read it. News is a business. And this is what the newspapers and the media outlets want. They want you to keep reading. They want you to spend more time reading the news online or reading more or watching more, because they are a business. And so just know that that is the case. Okay, they're not going to be sharing the positives or that's not going to be there for you to see. And also there is a lot of fake news, obviously. I'm not going to go down that route. It's just to say that news is sensational and fear-mongering. And so just know that when you are exposing yourself to the news. And actually, you do have the power of choice. Some clients I've worked with in the past, we always uncover beliefs and reassess them and change them so that they work better for you, like limiting beliefs or beliefs that hold you back as a person. And a couple of times it's come up now with different clients, is that they have this belief that they have a responsibility to know what's going on. And so they have to watch the news or read the news every single day. And beliefs are shaped by things that you hear quite often from your parents as a child, and they shape the way you act as an adult and the way you are in the world. And so you don't necessarily realize, unless you kind of consciously come to it or hear it on this podcast, that you do have the power of choice. It's not your responsibility to know what's going on in the world unless you choose to do so. So you do have the power to choose. If you don't want to watch the news or stay in the loop of what's going on, then you don't have to, because you need to put yourself first and your own well-being first. Because when something is out of our control, what's the point of making yourself feel ill or extremely stressed for a long time? We don't know how long this is going to go on for. And so you need to think, I need to put myself first here. And if you're the kind of person, if you're really, really struggling to the point where you're going in fight or flight every time you read in the news, then maybe it is right for you to not look at the news for a while. That's your choice. And that is perfectly okay if that's the right thing for you to do. But if you do want to keep abreast of what's going on, you do want to stay in touch with it, then there are different things that you can do to protect your own energy and your own mental well-being at the same time. And different things that you can do are you might just want to read the headlines rather than going in depth and really exposing yourself and putting yourself in fight or flight. You might want to listen to the news on the radio rather than watch it. It's much less in terms of stimulation for your mind. You're just hearing things rather than actually seeing the footage. If you're finding that you're tempted to just go on the news on your phone, like a news app, then delete the news app and limit yourself. My biggest piece of advice, if you do want to stay in the loop of what's going on, is to completely limit your exposure to the news, right down to once a day, and be mindful about when you choose to access it, because it most likely will put you in fight or flight, and you will need some time to get out of fight or flight and some time to feel better. So choose and be mindful and be intentional about when you want to read the news or listen to the news. Don't just mindlessly go into it and then feel bad about feeling bad. Like, it's your choice. It's always your choice. Now, just a little bit of background as to what's going on is your primitive brain, the part of the brain where when you're operating in survival mode or fight or flight, or freeze response is what I call the primitive brain. And that always wants to keep you safe because your brain's only job is to keep you alive. And so when we're in fight or flight mode, we are hyper vigilant. We are your brain is going to try and get you to obsessively watch the news because that's the way to be hyper vigilant. You're not actually in the situation. So you need to look at the news or keep abreast of what's going on multiple times a day. But actually, intellectually, you know that that's not good for you. And so you do need to be mindful and take control of what's going on and make decisions about the best thing for you to do. And as I said at the beginning of this podcast, this episode is for you if you are feeling consciously constantly uneasy, not being able to relax, So make the best decision for you here. And if you do have any questions about anything that I'm saying or want some further clarification or anything, please don't hesitate to send me a DM on Instagram at Believe and Achieve with Jenna. But yeah, hopefully this is helping. But so your brain then, when stress goes up, for example, the current situation, if you're feeling stressed by it, when those stress levels go up, so does the need for feel-good chemicals in your brain, because the feel-good chemicals that we get are what manages stress. Okay, so it's often this is counterintuitive quite a lot, because you feel like, for example, when stress or work pressure goes up, or you feel busier in life, then you don't have the time to practice self-care, or you don't have the inclination because you're just stuck in survival mode. But actually, you need to know that when stress or pressure goes up in your life, so does the need for these feel-good chemicals, because those are what is helping you to be able to cope with the stress. Okay. So feel-good chemicals you can get in several ways. I refer to them as the 3 Ps. So that is positive actions. So doing things that you enjoy, making time for things that you enjoy. Delete the news app, get outside, put music on, whatever. Do a hobby. Just do what lights you up, because when you're doing something that you really enjoy and you're switching off from the world, then you're getting the feel-good chemicals that your brain really needs at this moment in time. And that's going to help you be able to relax and switch off and potentially sleep better if you're having problems with sleep at the moment. By the way, when we have issues with sleep, it's a very good sign that our stress bucket levels are far too high, because it's the amount of stress that you're trying to process overnight that is too much for the brain. And the brain's trying to process that, and there's too much to deal with. So it wakes you up. So a good sign, if you are waking up in the night and your brain is like buzzing with thoughts, or you're struggling to get to sleep, that's a sign that your stress bucket levels are too high. But anyway, how to get these feel-good chemicals which help you manage the stress are, like I said, positive actions, doing things that you enjoy, positive interactions with people, being sociable, connection. We are social beings as humans, and we need this connection because we get feel-good chemicals when we do. Thirdly is a positive mindset, being very mindful of your thoughts, because every negative thought that you have goes into your stress bucket. Okay. And our brain can't tell the difference between real and imagination. So when you're having like worst case scenario type fearful thoughts, it's going in your stress bucket. So do your very best to do some reframes and turn things around into the positive. So more on this. You can't worry about what's not in your control. And you can, obviously you can, but it's not helpful to you. If you can't do something about a situation, there's no point worrying about it, because studies show that most of what we worry about doesn't happen anyway. And the only thing that worrying does is ruins your peace. It ruins your now. And now is the only time that we have in this life. If you're constantly worrying about something in the future that may or may not happen, then you're stealing your peace right now. Okay, and switching off from the news and trying to put into practice the things that I'm saying in this episode doesn't mean that you don't care. You can still care and show you care, like via donating or any donating money or donating things that people need. If you see something happening locally, of course, do that. But thoughts like, "Oh, I feel bad that it's them and it's not me," or anything like that, they're just not helpful to you and your energy and your peace of mind. And this is what this episode is about. It's about helping you cope better. Okay? So a reframe that I've actually been practicing and feeling really good for is, yes, it's not us, but I can use this moment to feel even more grateful for everything I have in my life. Okay? My family, my home, everything. Be more grateful. Soak up the blessings that you have in your life, because we know how precious that is. And it came up in a conversation the other day. Somebody said about, "Oh, but I feel bad that it's them and it's not me." But actually, that's the case with anything in life. If we have food, different food to eat every day, and if we have a home to live in, and if we are in relatively good health, and we have a job, and we have electricity, then we are so, so lucky. And we do take these things for granted, but we don't need to. We can actually practice gratitude here and now and every single day for everything that we have, and feeling lucky that we are born into the situation that we are born into, and all the things that we do have. We should be counting our blessings more and more and more. Okay, and now's the perfect opportunity for you to do that. Feel so grateful for everything you have in your life, and that will help you cope better, because it's a positive thought, and positive thoughts generate feel-good chemicals in your brain that help you to cope with the stress that you might be feeling up until now. And being grateful helps you to ground yourself in what's around you and what's in your life right now, because that's what counts to you at the moment, is your life, your peace of mind. And it doesn't mean that you don't care and that you're not sending out, prayers or thoughts to those that are fleeing their homes and those that aren't safe. It doesn't mean that at all. But at the same time, this episode is about helping you to cope better. Okay. So I hope what I've said is helpful. I just want to briefly touch on at the end, just a little bit about children, because it's very likely that children are feeling very scared about the situation at the moment. And I did, back when September 11th happened, and I didn't have access to technology in the way that children do these days. They have their phones, they have iPads, they can access it 24/7. And so they are potentially more at risk of being traumatized, even more than I was when September 11th happened. So just a couple of things to be mindful of if you do have children, or you have children around you. Talk to them, because they are likely scared or confused. They may be hiding it. They may be not showing it, or whatever, but talk to them. Just let them know that you are there. And if they are scared, then connection is key. Okay. And I know this, when I was really struggling around September 11th and feeling traumatized and whatever, I just wanted to be around my mum. I just remember, luckily she worked at home, and I just sat there with her, while she was working, just with a book. I just wanted to be near her. And so connection is key for your children. Just be there, and share what you've heard here with them. Equip them with the tools that they need to know that it's okay to limit your consumption, and be a role model. Just be aware of the things that they're hearing around you, limit the consumption of the news, and don't talk about it. Don't necessarily talk about it. They'll be listening. They'll be overhearing things that you're saying. And when you're a child, you have an immature brain, and so you won't necessarily be able to contextualize things, and children can overhear things and make it mean something that if they don't understand, and it can have really, really not nice implications on them, and the way they live their life for the rest of their life. So because they're shaping their beliefs, and their beliefs are in the subconscious mind. So just be mindful about the conversations that you have around them. and that they might be listening, probably are listening. And that's in this context and any context. But I'm not here to share guidance as a parent or anything like that. But if you would like to ask me questions or pick my brains a little bit more on anything that you've heard today, then please don't hesitate to send me a DM on Instagram at Believe and Achieve with Jenna. And one more thing to say, actually, if you've not got it yet, something that will really help you if you have been stuck feeling very uneasy and nervous and anxious over the past week or so is to download my free sleep hypnosis audio. Listen to it when you go to sleep at night. Listen to it if you wake up in the night, and it will just help you fall off to sleep. It will help you start to process what's in your stress bucket. That's what happens when you have hypnotherapy. It processes what's in the stress bucket, and that happens during your sleep as well. If there's too much in your stress bucket, then this is going to really help you. So listen to that when you go to sleep. Don't try and stay awake for it, because your subconscious brain will hear it as you are falling asleep anyway, and once you've gone to sleep. And if you're feeling really, really like in an anxious state during the day, then there's no reason why you can't just take 20 minutes. If you've got the time, take 20 minutes to listen to that during the day, just to help you feel calm and to release some of the stress from your body. So I hope this has helped you. I really do hope this has helped, and that you've been able to take something away from this episode. Please do let me know if you have found it useful, and I welcome all the feedback. I've been so grateful for the feedback that I've had from the past 2 episodes, and also I'm so grateful for you if you have been sharing this episode with friends, or I've yet to receive my first review on the podcast. So if you'd like to leave a review, I would really love that too. But anyway, thank you for listening, and I will see you again on Tuesday, back to regular schedule, episodes every Tuesday, or releasing at midnight on Tuesday if you're an early bird. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. Take care, and I will see you soon.